Hey guys, Larry here with Creaky Chair Models. I did a video 3 or 4 months ago. I think it's actually closer to 5. Had some family issues, some things pop up, so I haven't done much lately. But I wanted to do a follow-up today. It'll only take a couple minutes, but it'll teach you how to speed match an MTH locomotive that has the phase 3 or greater decoders in them with a standard DCC. It's not quite simple, but it's actually not too hard. It can be done equally as well in ops mode on the throttle, but I'm going to show you how to do it in JMRI, and I'll give you a list of the CVs that need changing and what they are in the description of the video. So the first thing I did is I went and created a new locomotive. In JMRI, I'm on the roster screen. You click New Locomotive, and you scroll down to MTH, Electric Trains Inc. And then I did the MTH HO full PS3 definition. Okay? From here, I clicked Open Comprehensive Programmer. This is the part you'll really need to pay attention to. Just the ID. I'm going to call it Test Locomotive. MTH. Call it whatever you want. Name it whatever you want. But this is important that you save it to the roster so that you can program it in ops mode. Because the only way to program an MTH with PS3 is in ops mode. So just click Save to the roster right here. And you'll see there's feedback that it was saved in. Alright, so the first thing I want to show you is on the screen, on the tab labeled motor, or the screen labeled motor, but it's on, you have to click the tab up here. You see the acceleration and deceleration rate? Those only are adjusted by this pull down. You see this speed mode that says SMPH? That is scale miles per hour. That is the default for an MTH locomotive. The first change you have to make is you have to change this to pulse width modulation. This way, the steps will follow the basic speed control or the speed table. Okay? So that's the first change, and this is CV52. If you actually hover over it, it'll show you what it is, okay, currently. It becomes CV52 gets to a change of 1. All right, you see this scale miles per hour acceleration and deceleration? That is where you're going to adjust the acceleration and deceleration. This one up here is CV3 and 4. When you change this to pulse width, here is where you make the change. So I just usually do a 5 and a 5. It gives them a little bit of a slowdown and makes it relatively painless. We discussed these, I believe, in the past, but that CV3 is the acceleration, CV4 is the deceleration, and it's the same for all NMRA standard decoders. So if you're in the scale miles per hour setting, it doesn't matter what you do here. It doesn't change it because it's assuming that one step on your decoder is 1 scale mile an hour increase. Once you make that change to pulse width, then the NMRA standards that we discussed earlier of CV2, which is your starting voltage here, and CV5, which is your top end voltage. You'll notice there's no mid-range. You can do it a number of ways, as I showed on the last video, but what I do is I just basically bring them up around 125. I run it past my speedometer at mid-range and see what the speed is. And then I will adjust this top end until it gets to that mid-range speed of 30 that I use for my equipment. If you want the finer control of it all, you can come over here and click Use the Speed Table, change this down here to User Defined Speed Curve, sorry, user-defined speed table. It's in a different place on that pull down. That's what threw me. And then you can bring this one down, and you'll see it says, when I hover it over, step 28. There's 28 steps in a row across here, okay? And it'll tell you what CV it is. And you can bring them down this way. And then do match ends, as I showed you before. And then you can adjust this up and down. The MTH locomotives follow a pretty much a standard straight line curve for their stuff. So I just used the basic speed table, but if you want to make the changes here, you can. If you want to see what changed over here, I'm going to show you a little trick. You see this CVs tab? This is a database. So if you click on a column, it will sort by that column. Okay, so in this case, it's clicked on the CV number, so it sorts by them. If you click on the value, it'll sort by that. See? If you click on the state, which is the one I want you to look at, you have two states. You have edited and you have from file. The edited ones are all the ones we changed. So if you only make one or two changes, you can quickly go through and see the edited ones just by clicking on that state. If you want to see what hasn't been changed, it'll be from file. Roster, it's going to default to address 3. If you have already changed your address, you need to go in here and do it. Okay? By the way, if you look up here, you see the factory reset? Don't believe it. It doesn't work. I will walk you through that process at the end of the video. But here what we're going to do is we're going to do File and then Exit. Okay? It'll say some decoders, and yes, they haven't been done. All right. So we'll go find our test locomotive. He should be on address 3, and he's right there. So we're going to go to Programming on the main. Okay? If you have a command station that has a separate program track output, in other words, it does not change over and throw programming to everything on the main line. In other words, if there's a separate program tracked output, it is next to impossible, in fact it is impossible, to program all of your locomotives. Okay? The reason is, when you program on the main, or what's called the ops mode, the first bit that it sends out is, I'm speaking to locomotive number 3. Now if you have 2 locomotives with number 3, you're going to program them both. Okay? So if you got something you have as a default to 3, you need to take it off the track. All right? So the first thing we're going to do in ops mode is we're going to go to the basic tab, and this is where you're going to put your address in. I'm going to use address 123, all right, which is actually a short address. Okay? And then you would do write changes on sheet. I am not on my main line with this locomotive, so I'm not going to do that. But that's how it would send it to the locomotive, and the address will be done. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to move over here, and we're going to do that pull down from scale miles an hour to pulse width modulation, and this one, and this one. And once you've done that, you've got those changes in, if you put them in before, like I showed you, you can just simply do write full sheet, and then one by one it will write all of the CVs that are here. The same thing here. We made the changes and I saved them before to the roster, so you can just do write full sheet. But remember, I changed it to speed table. So if you're going to use the basic speed, read this. It says don't use speed table, use start voltage. So this is the one we want. It's the simplest to do, less writing to do. But if you like the speed table, there you go. Okay? So the MTH function mapping. This is a handy little tool to tell you what the default functions are for DCC. So you can, if you notice here, you've got front and rear couplers, and anybody I know that uses their MTH stuff changes the couplers out because they're compatible, but they're painful sometimes to get them to couple. So you can change this one to something else that you might use, say coupler slack or coupler close or short horn or something like that. But you can just do whatever you want it to do right here. Okay? So you can change all those, and when you're done, you just do write changes on sheet, and it will write them all out. Okay? So the next important thing you have to do is do a file save. Okay? We changed the address on the basic tab here to 123. Okay? If you don't save that file and you want to program it again, it's still going to think it's on 3. So once you get 123 done and you're all done, you've written all your sheets, made all your changes, then anytime you want to change it in the future, you just simply come over here, and now you'll look, test locomotive is not on 3 anymore, it's on 123. So you go back to program on the main. Okay? Worst case scenario. You have completely botched up the locomotive. It's not doing anything. You just can't fix it. If you have more than one MTH locomotive on your main line, take all but the offensive one off. So you should only have one. Okay? On your, I'm going to use Digitrax just to make it simple, but it's easy on NCE or any Easy DCC or any of them. The first thing you do is you select locomotive number 55. Okay? Then you go to Program in Ops Mode. Okay? And you want to set CV55. And then the data for CV55 is 55. So remember, 55 locomotive number, CV55, data 55, and then write it on the main. That does a reset of every MTH engine that's on the mainline track. So just be sure you only have the one that's offensive on there, and you'll be okay. Other than that, you'll just have to go through and set your addresses and things again. If you've done them all here in JMRI, it's relatively simple to fix this. But it would show up as address 3 again. So, any rate, one last reminder, locomotive number 55, CV55, data 55, right. And it will reset them. All right. So I will pause here for a moment, and I'm going to go and correct my previous video on a minor glitch I saw on the ESU decoders. Okay, guys. So on the ESU decoders, now I don't have any ESU equipped. I don't hate them, so don't think I'm a hater or anything, but let's just grab like a Loc-Sound 5 here. It really doesn't matter. We'll grab any one of them, and I wanted to show you what the error was I had. I assumed that Loc-Sound used the same protocols for DCC that everyone else did. If you come to the basic speed control, you see these 3? Some of them do not have that. So you have to do a read on this. I saw 3 different decoders that only had the V start and the V high. And additionally, there is some other functions that follow more prototypical acceleration and deceleration, so that the motor control ones here, these right here, will not have the exact effect that you want. It's very decoder specific. So if you're seeing your acceleration and your deceleration are still taking too long, there's a couple of forums out there, and guys will tell you what to change so it follows the standard DCC stuff. Again, a minor correction, but away we go. Thanks again for your time, guys. I know that it's been a long time since I put a video out. Hopefully you gained something out of this, and we will talk to you again very soon. I'm back in the shop more, and I have some things that I'm working on that I should be able to put some videos out in maybe a couple of weeks. Thanks again, guys.